From 12 News, this is Newsmakers.
Destination Newport. The summer of 2021 is poised to be a busy one for Rhode Island coastal communities as businesses that rely on tourism and hospitality hope to recover from a lost year. But as people once again flock to the coast, are those communities prepared for the influx? Welcome to Newsmakers. I'm Tim White alongside 12 News politics editor Ted Nesi, and our guest this week to talk about that is the president and CEO of Discover Newport, Evan Smith. Evan, good to see you. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here to talk about my favorite subject, travel.
Well, first of all, just before we get into all that, there are going to be people at home watching this program wondering what is Discover Newport? How would you answer that?
We are a tourism promotional agency. There's hundreds of those nationwide, so our job is to promote our destination for both business and leisure travel. So our organization is the official tourism marketing office for the 9 towns of Newport and Bristol County. So we do that with great enthusiasm and great pride.
So not just Newport, you cover
all of Newport and Bristol County.
Okay. All right. So anyone who has stepped foot in any of those 9 towns in the past couple of weekends, you know, Newport, I think Bristol, they will come away with the assessment that things are back, and they're back in a big way. It has been crowded in Newport, it's been crowded in Bristol and in the other communities. Is that anecdotal assessment an accurate one?
So the travel industry is recovering at different stages and different paces. So when you see a lot of people who have the confidence to travel now, about 80% of Americans have indicated that they're ready to travel and willing to travel again. So we're seeing people coming back out for leisure purposes. Business travel is still slower to recover. And so right now we're seeing people who want to get out and stretch their legs, largely the drive market. The flights will return, but it's a pace.
So the drive market, people who live in the area, they just want to get down to Newport, you know, because
within
they haven't
300
been
miles.
Right.
Within 300 miles is kind of our key sweet spot of visitors who will come to Rhode Island this summer.
So the other thing people are seeing a lot of is help wanted signs in restaurants and other businesses. There's a worker shortage. We've done a lot of reporting on that here at 12 News. What are you hearing from businesses as to why that's happening and the impact on them?
So the last 15 months have been the toughest ever for the travel industry. It's been a really difficult time, and a lot of our businesses did whatever they could to get creative and innovative and survive, frankly. And unfortunately, we lost some businesses. What I find ironic about this is that they come out of one pandemic and they go into yet another big challenge, which is the labor industry that you're talking about. And the number of businesses that are experiencing a short of labor is really limiting the capacity that they can do. Restaurants can't serve as many people as they want to. Hotels can't open up as many rooms as they want to. Everyone is having to scale back. Sometimes businesses that would be open 7 days a week are only able to do 5 days a week because they fear they're going to have employee burnout, that they're just not going to be able to make it through the whole season with the crew that they've got. So this is kind of a double whammy, if I could use that casual language, but it's difficult because they're trying to survive without the kind of help that they would normally have.
Whenever we mention this topic on social media, we get a lot of pushback from people who say, well, if you don't have enough workers, you're just not paying enough. And if you raise wages, then you'll have enough workers and this wouldn't be a problem. So it's really a problem on the business side. What do you say to that pushback that we're hearing?
So right now, the market is in a kind of a free-formed place because people are offering prices that are in some cases twice of what they used to be paid. And so you see salaries that used to be below $15 now people being paid $20 to $25, as high as $30 an hour in terms of incentives that are out there. And so I don't think that the lack of money is the issue right now. I think that public subsidy is part of the complexity of this conversation.
Meaning unemployment benefits.
Indeed. And so when that stops in September, I think you're going to see a shift in the paradigm here. But another part of this conversation, gentlemen, is that a number of resorts, including Rhode Island resorts, rely on international workers with J-1 visas. And places like Martha's Vineyard, Nantucket, Block Island, Newport, they're
all of Cape Cod.
All of Cape Cod, thank you. In many cases, 50% of their workforce or higher have been J1 workers from other countries. This year, none of those people came in. So that is part of the complexity of this conversation, because there was no international assistance either, which has made the challenge that much greater.
So I guess the tough question is there. You have a few things going on, domestic labor shortage, and then the international one. Is what needs to happen to address this labor shortage? And we're talking in the short term. It is, as we tape this program, it's July 1st. We're kicked off the summer season. Those unemployment benefits are set to expire in September. Is there any answer to this, or you just white knuckle your way through it?
The business owners are using a pay scale to get whatever labor they can find right now. So there is no one magic wand that's going to cure this, but raising wages to a point where the market seems to respond and people are coming in seems to be the action step that is making the biggest impact right now. I think we're going to, and we do expect that you'll see businesses actually stay closed some days a week. There's that concern that I mentioned earlier about employee burnout. And so they're going to pace themselves. They're going to try to make it through the peak season and get ready for a better year next year labor-wise.
Yep. A few months back, we had on tourism and hospitality leaders from Providence, and they were very worried. As far as I know, they're still pretty worried about the capital city, downtown. Especially, they depend on business travel, they depend on conventions. How different is the picture in Newport, as well as the surrounding communities you represent, compared with what we're hearing out of Providence?
So one of the things that we've all learned over the last 15 months is, as the pandemic went on and we started to learn and observe and watch, was that the people from metropolitan areas were leaving metropolitan areas at record rates to go to open spaces, to go to mountains, to go to lakes, to go to the coastal shoreline, seeking open space. And so what's happened over the last 15 months is that resort areas like Newport, greater Newport area, and others in New England have done very well. Unfortunately, and I mean that sincerely, unfortunately a lot of metropolitan areas have not. They're still suffering from a decline in the area. We know that that will come back, but their recovery is slower right now. And so we're fortunate in a resort area like ours to be able to have the comeback we're having, but the recovery will be slower, and because of that, more painful, I think, for our metropolitan areas.
I have to ask you about short-term rentals, renting a house or an apartment through an online site like Airbnb. That has exploded and really has created tension in certain communities like Newport. There's a bill before lawmakers that would require these property owners who rent out their homes to register with the Department of Business Regulation, in short, so they can be regulated. And you know, a city and town can track whether or not they run afoul of zoning laws or something like that. I don't know if Discover Newport has taken a position on it, but do you support or oppose regulations like that in general?
So specifically to that question, we are neutral. We're kind of like Switzerland in that regard. But I will try to tackle that complex question, which is short-term rentals are the fastest growing trend in travel. Every year, every 3 years, every 5 years, you see different trends happening in the travel industry. So lodging preferences for short-term rentals, not only here in Rhode Island, but around the United States, around the world, is the fastest growing trend in travel. It has a fairly long list of advantages, and it has an equally long list of disadvantages. And so it's a very complex situation. It's a very complex debate. And frankly, where it comes down to is municipal leaders, because it's going to be town councils and governments that are going to set policy. And some towns and cities are approaching this in different ways. And so some of them are looking at this as a referendum on whether you can rent your home for 12 nights and keep your residential tax status, but if you rent it more than 12 nights, then they're going to change your tax status to commercial. So that's one option that some municipal leaders are using. Others are using capacity control, so they might say we're going to give 100 licenses and then cap it, so it's almost like a lottery. Other municipalities are using density control, saying we're only going to have X number of short-term rentals in a density. This is, I go to a lot of town council meetings. It's brought up at almost every town council meeting. You mentioned the state legislation. It's a topic that still has a lot more debate to go. It's going to continue to, throughout the summer, you're going to see the popularity of the rentals still occurring here. But there will be changes, I think, in the regulatory aspects of this, and it's going to be interesting to continue to watch. We see our role as providing research and data. We want to help municipalities with the kind of data that will help them make good decisions on how they should regulate these things. So we want to be part of the solution, not part of the problem.
One of the big things people look forward to in Newport every year is the Newport Jazz Festival, as well as the Newport Folk Festival. They are on this year after being canceled last year, but as far as I understand, they're going to be looking a little different. What's the outlook for the big music festivals?
So last year was a quiet year for us, with none of the festivals happening all year long. So many wonderful festivals, from tennis tournaments to boat shows to music festivals, food festivals. The robust schedule went quiet last year. It was eerily quiet. So as we come to this year, our event partners are all getting ready to gear up at a level that might be anywhere from 30 to 75% of where they were before. And their game plan has changed a lot, because as the CDC regulations and guidelines have changed, so have they had to change their game plan. And so each week or each month, it seems, as the CDC changes, event organizers have to change as well. But we've already had some events go off very well. We still have a lot of events to come, but they will be scaled back. They will have certain CDC health regulations with them. They'll be slightly different, but I think people are so excited to get back to things they have an affinity for. So if you're a passionate tennis player, you're going to be so excited to get back to the tennis tournament. If you're a passionate yachter, you're going to want to get back to the boat show. If you're a fan of music, you just can't wait to get back to these things. So even though they're going to be different, just the excitement of getting back on the road towards normalcy is going to take a while, but it's refreshing.
With the backlog of weddings because of the past 18 months, I imagine there must be a wedding scheduled every day from now until September in Newport and the surrounding communities. Is that what it feels like right now?
It does.
Yeah.
The wedding industry, we do about 1,200 weddings in Newport and Bristol a year.
Wow. And
that obviously came to a screeching halt. It was a very difficult conversation. There were a lot of anxious bridal parties. It was a very difficult time for the industry. They're coming back, and to your point right now, many of our venues are doing weddings 5 nights a week. I know a number of venues that are doing 5 weddings a week, and sometimes 2 on Saturday and 2 on Sunday. So there's a lot of catch-up to be made. I personally went to a wedding last Wednesday night that had been postponed twice.
I've never heard of a Wednesday night wedding, honestly.
Yeah. So there's a lot of weddings being put on right now, and it was exciting for that as well. It's a lot of fun.
Has that supply and demand? Does that mean the venues are charging more right now because they're so in demand to get through this backlog?
No, a lot of these weddings were already prepaid, and frankly, part of that conversation was that was the great debate over, do you get a refund or not? And a lot of these weddings are going to happen because the policy was that you have to have your wedding, and so no wedding, no refund was the position of not everything, but a lot of them. Okay, and so we still have a lot more backlog to clear. But that's a healthy sign and a good sign.
One thing for Newport, I wonder how you think about this, is it's an old colonial town in the end, and it wasn't necessarily built with the amount of people that want to be in Newport in the summertime. How is the city thinking about managing? I assume demand just grows every year for more people to come to Newport as the population grows, but the city itself doesn't get bigger. How are they thinking about managing that, just the capacity?
So I'm going to break that down into 3 parts. So the city right now is working on a master transportation plan and doing a lot of work through a consultant to look at better ways to move more people more efficiently. And so it is an old colonial city. It was built, its streets were built for horse and carriages. So it's time to look at a new transportation plan and transportation alternatives, because we're all in love with our cars. All Americans just want to drive right up to the front door in our car and get out and be there. And so we have a lot of psychological and social adjustments to make as Americans towards our love of automobiles. I think the second part of it kind of comes on an organization like ours, which is that, in fact, with tourism promotion, we're looking to promote the shoulder seasons and the off seasons. Newport really doesn't need our help to promote itself in July and August. There's plenty of people there. So when we look at creating our programming and reasons to inspire people to come to our destination, we are really looking to put out programming and activities that will draw them in the shoulders and the off season.
Evan Smith. Oh, you have one more point. Keep going.
Yeah, that's okay. Just very quickly, and I'll keep this very short. I think that a lot of cities and towns are going to get into the capacity-controlled debate. Ski mountains went there. Ski mountains used to be entirely open. Then they said we can only take so many skiers on a mountain. And theme parks used to be wide open. Then they had to capacity control. I think within the geography of the United States, islands will be the first one that start to see capacity control. And it's a debate that's already begun. And I think you'll start to see it phase in the next couple of years.
I think Venice has talked a lot about that too.
Exactly, precisely.
All right, we have to go to a break here. Evan Smith, President, CEO of Discover Newport, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, guys, and have a great 4th of July.
You as well. And when we come back, U.S. Senator Jack Reed finds himself in the unusual spot of being in a controversy. Stay with us. You're watching Newsmakers. Welcome back to Newsmakers. I'm Tim White alongside 12 News Politics editor Ted Nesi. Ted, last week on the show we were talking about the controversy swirling around U.S. Senator Sheldon Whitehouse and Bailey's Beach Club, that whole story. This week, Senator Reed, what is going on? He's in the, I would say, national spotlight, correct me if I'm wrong, for blocking a bill from getting a full vote in the Senate that would essentially change how military sex assault trials are handled. Break this down for
Yes, this has been a long-running discussion in Washington and Congress about there have been just many reports that sexual assaults, sex crimes within the military are not being handled well by too many commanding officers. You know, maybe, not enforcing punishment, maybe targeting the wrong person, obviously, especially when you have units with men and women.
And that's the process now. It's the commanding officer that, quote unquote, adjudicates these issues.
Exactly.
Okay.
So a growing number of lawmakers, including New York's Kirsten Gillibrand, have been working on this. She has a bill with significant support that would basically move all felonies out of the military chain of command in terms of how they're adjudicated to independent military prosecutors.
All felonies is key,
all
not
felonies.
Just sex assault.
Exactly,
cases.
and that's kind of the crux of the controversy that involves Senator Reed.
All right, so look, this is a big issue in Washington. If you missed Ted's report, it's on WPRI.com. It gets really in depth on this, but you met up for that report. You met up with Reed and pointed out to him that this is getting support from Democrats and Republicans. The bill has more than 60 co-sponsors, so that suggests it would likely pass if it came up for a vote. You asked him about it. Here's what he had to say.
Is that fair?
Well, it is the rules of the Senate. Measures that have strong support in the United States Senate don't sometimes turn out to be the best. I think there were about 78 senators who supported the invasion of Iraq.
So, his first answer there was process. And look, we've interviewed Jack Reed for a long time. He is a stickler for process. But it begs the question, if you could weigh in on it, if there are other parts of the bill that make him uncomfortable. We talked about the felony aspect, all felonies. So, look, if the bill were to be rewritten and it would be more in line with what he was looking for, would he be okay with it going to a full vote on the floor?
I think there's
or is he still about
I think
process?
There's multiple things going on here. I think Reed is very hesitant about messing with the chain of command within the military, even on an issue like sexual assault, and removing authority from commanding officers. What does that do to unit cohesion, especially what does that do overseas in terms of enforcement? Second, I think As you say, Tim, he's an old, he's been in the Senate now a quarter of a century. He's old school. And I think, what Gillibrand is doing is she's going to the floor. I don't think I said this explicitly. She's going to the floor and asking for an immediate vote. And Reed is popping up to object and say, no, you can't have it, which he's allowed to do. And he wants this issue to be figured out within the Armed Services Committee, where he, of course, right now is the chairman, and where the Republican, who had been the chairman, Jim Inhofe, does not support doing any changes on military sexual assault. So you have the underlying dispute at issue about how to change sexual assault investigations and prosecutions in the military, and then a whole question about, who's in charge here of how this legislation gets through.
And let's be clear, if you didn't say it, Senator Reed is open to changing to a bill that might change.
He came out for it the day before Gillibrand started going to the floor to say this. So he says something's going to get done. The defense secretary is saying it needs to change now. It would shock me if they didn't do something on this in the military policy bill that's coming up, the NDAA, which is the biggest thing he does each year. But still, it's very possible whatever pops out of committee will not satisfy Gillibrand and her allies.
This is an unusual spot for Reed, in my opinion. White House's controversy last week was somewhat unusual, but you think of Sheldon Whitehouse as more of a firebrand, and his role in the Senate Judiciary Committee was very polarizing with the Justice Kavanaugh hearings. But with Reed, he largely stays out of these types of things. Is this what comes with chairmanship? In other words, heavy is the head that wears the crown?
Yeah, I think there's a piece to that, right? I mean, I think even if Reed felt this way, if he wasn't the chairman of Armed Services, he wouldn't be the one popping up on the Senate floor to block her. Someone else would be sort of expected to take that step, even if he was quietly, supportive of it too, of blocking the bill right now. So I do think it's that. I do just think also, there is, you see in both these cases, I think you have senior citizen white males in a Democratic Party that has moved to the left. And I think both Sheldon Whitehouse and Jack Reed are men of the left, but they're also kind of old school Democrats who, in Sheldon Whitehouse's case, clearly had a blind spot for just how much the beach club would stick in people's craw. Yeah. And in Reed's case here, his affinity for the military and, his own Army service, et cetera, has him a little out of step with how some of his colleagues view the importance of that versus dealing with the sexual assault thing.
All right, we're going to shift gears here, Ted. Eli Sherman and I, as you know, covered the latest chapter in the saga of the state-run Eleanor Slater Hospital System this week. A much-anticipated review by Health and Human Services Secretary Wamazetta Jones was released, and as we already know, things aren't good over at the hospital. Our full breakdown's on WPRI.com. But, Ted, the upshot is Jones lays the blame of much of what's going on over there at the current leadership at Slater, and she put someone on administrative leave over there, and she argues that she was kept in the dark on some of the issues. But an important note is she's been secretary for 2 years, and the hospital fell under her watch. I asked her about that at a news conference. Take a listen.
Do you feel like you bear any responsibility for the problems that have continued to fester?
My response to you as secretary would be that I do not believe that I shoulder the responsibility.
How so?
Let me help with that. In order to manage, you've got to have the authority to manage. And I don't believe that, I think that there was an assumption that the secretary was, overseeing, but there wasn't direct accountability to her.
Interesting that the governor jumped in there on that answer, Ted. But look, people, it's hard to understand this issue for people at home. I don't blame them. It's very complicated to even report on it. But it's on their elected officials in the House and Senate. They need to get it. How big an issue is this for them on Smith Hill right now?
It's a very big issue, and I think I'd say there's 2, even maybe 3 pieces to it. First of all, I just would point back to the patients. I mean, this is a hospital of last resort for both psychiatric and long-term sick patients.
Some 200 patients in all these hospitals.
And you have, we say hospital, you think of one campus. Eleanor Slater encompasses multiple. There's Ambarano up in Burrillville. There's the Cranston campuses. So you have the patients who just need to be taken care of. We've seen some horrible reports about the conditions there. Second, financially, for the entire state, I mean, the reason this is seen as such a crisis at the moment is because they stopped billing Medicaid, the federal government, because of people blowing the whistle on alleged bad billing practices, which have been an open secret for a long time at the State House, how they were kind of massaging that. And so we're now well over $100 million in state money in recent years that's had to go here that would have been federally funded in the past. And then also, Zamperano is a very important job center for Northern Rhode Island. So that's part of why you have Republicans campaigning to keep this very expensive hospital. I mean, the cost is about $500,000 per patient right now to provide care there. But the Republicans, along with arguing for the healthcare side of it, say this is very important to our districts.
Real quick, I don't know if you know the answer to this. Has there been any talk about potentially tapping ARP funds, the American Recovery Plan funds, for this hospital? And could they use it for that?
The governor has said he would like to. You know, I think his team is a little frustrated that the legislature is taking a stronger hand with this money than they did with the coronavirus relief fund last year. We're seeing the same thing happen in Massachusetts. But I think they have such a wide ability to use those money in so many ways. If they want to and there's agreement on that, I think that's certainly an option they will be looking at. And don't forget, that's just one stream of funding coming in from the American Rescue Plan, the big $1.1 billion we talk about a lot. So I think that could be an option. But I think this is going to be, you know, one of the key tests, just briefly, is are they going to fix this or just try to get it quiet again and go back to the status quo of 2018? All
right, we'll keep watch on that one. Thank you for watching the program. For all of you watching at home, happy 4th of July, and we'll see you next week on Newsmakers.